Hi. Hi, welcome everybody to the Study Abroad question and answer session. We are so excited that you're here and appreciate that you took some time today to meet with us. I know that you are probably, just like I am, super excited and ready to travel again after this year of COVID. And so in the spirit of let's go, we have some speakers today that are going to share some information about study abroad opportunities that we have at NCTC. So I'm Rochelle Gregory. I'm the division chair for the English department. We also have speakers today. We have Jacob Arnold, an English instructor, and Donnie Willis, the lead networking instructor. They are leading students on a tour of Japan next January. And then we have Kristen Weinzappel, an English instructor who is leading students on a tour of Berlin and Germany. And then we have a special guest all the way from Ireland today. We have Angus Weber, who is a distinguished and esteemed tour leader at EF. And so he's just going to share what it's like on the ground doing a study abroad experience. Hopefully he'll be our tour leader, but if not, that's okay. The EF always has great leaders to baby duck us through different locations, as I like to call it. And then finally, we'll conclude our brief presentation with Letitia Bradley, one of our former students who's participated on several study abroad adventures. And then we'll open it up for question and answer. So I'm going to take this moment and turn it over to Jacob and Donnie.
Hi, friends. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to share my screen. I'll be talking about our itinerary for the Japan trip. And so there's like 17 clicks that I have to go through. So please bear with me. All right. We're going to share that. It's going to be weird and picture. All right. Did the itinerary show up? Any confirmation from anybody in the StreamYard?
Not quite.
No. We're looking good.
Okay. All right.
I was trying for a second and then it went away.
Let's try that again.
Okay.
Window, program itinerary. I think we got it this time. I'm feeling good about it.
Yay.
There you go.
Hey, all right. So you can see here, this is going to be our itinerary map. We are flying into Tokyo and out of Osaka. And here is our full itinerary. And so this is, I'm not going to go over every single detail because we want to be good stewards of your time, but we will fly in and spend several days in Tokyo. We will be balancing this whole trip, both cultural and historical aspects, and then modern business and current, and then some futuristic aspects of Japan, and look at the delicious, like multi-dimensional aspects of this really amazing place. And so you can see here, we will have local expert guides. Every EF tour that I've ever been on has the most brilliant local expert guides, as well as, just like Angus, unbelievable tour guides who will lead us through all these different really cool places that some that you will see if you go kind of on your own or you travel, but a lot of these places that EF really hooks us up with are local, and you get to dive into the culture even on a different and more intimate level, which is one of my favorite things about traveling with EF. And so you can see here we go from Tokyo to Nagoya. We will be once again meeting with industry leaders, but we will also be balancing that with things like, once we go to Kyoto, the Niho Castle, we will be visiting Nara and one of the kind of oldest historical spots in Western Japan. We will go from Kyoto to Osaka, and then from there we will fly home. And so our itinerary is really balanced for this trip. I will also be teaching a class in the fall, second 8 week, where we will study the history of literature in Japan, and we will look at it from a historical perspective and then a modern perspective as well. And so it's going to be a really cool trip. I'm very excited to travel alongside you once again. And my email is jarnold@nctc.edu, and you can send me any questions, comments, queries, or conundrums that you have at any point in time. But we're very excited, and I'll pass it over to Donnie.
Hello, future travelers. I am Donnie Willis, the lead network instructor. Some of you know me, some of you don't. However, you will get to know me. One of the things that I'll be doing here is telling you what is included in this trip. So let's get started. It's round trip airfare, safe and quality hotel rooms, 24/7 bilingual tour director, transportation while abroad, educational itinerary, guided tours and activities, breakfast and select dinners, 24/7 support line, this traveler support team, and that team is the people that you will be talking to over the phone that will help you with your registrations as far as getting enrolled into the program when you call in. You have program donation page that kind of help you for raising funds for your trip. Travel backpack, scholarships and application opportunities, as well as global tour protection plan. Now, what we're talking about when we say travel scholarship application opportunities, there's different opportunities in which you can apply for scholarships that will help in your travel plans. So get that information, start now so that you will be ready for your trip. In addition, global tour protection. You always want to have protection just in case something happens and you can't go on the trip. That will secure that the monies that you spent will be, the tour company will work with you as far as refunds and stuff like that. Also, some of the things that's not included, and take note of this. Your passport is not included. That's up to you. That means that you need to get out there well in advance and get that passport. Airport baggage fees, those are not covered. Lunches and some snacks are not covered. Spending money, the thing that you might want to do is kind of put aside some money, maybe about $30 to $60 a day, depending on what you want to bring back for souvenirs. And think about that though. The things that you bring back, you're going to have to pay for when you pack it in your bag. So think about what you're taking and what you're bringing back. Spending money, everybody want to do that extra spending. So for some of the times when we may have some downtime and you go out and want to buy extra souvenirs and stuff, think about that spending money. Tips for your tour director. Uh, when somebody does a great job for you, you always want to leave them something to say thank you. And for those tour guides that will be helping us along the way, we will always want to say thank you by giving them a little donation. So, like I said, I didn't want to take up a whole lot of time. I think that's my 3 minutes, but I look forward to seeing you guys and talking to you in the future. My email address is drwillis@nctc.edu if you have any questions. Thank you.
I think I'm up next. My name is Kristen Weinsapple, and I am an English instructor at NCTC at the Gainesville campus. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of NCTC Study Abroad since 2013, and I'm so glad you are all here today to learn more about our programs because they truly are life-changing. And I know that sounds a bit hyperbolic and over the top, but it really is true. Since I've been a part of NCTC Study Abroad, I've had the opportunity to travel with students just like yourselves. Some of them have family members who also come along, and they're certainly welcome to do so. So it's been great to experience the world, not just for myself, but also through the eyes of the people that we travel with. And we really do form friendships and bonds that last for years and years. And one of those great bonds is through our tour directors and with the people that we meet through EF. I will be leading the trip to Berlin, which I'm very excited about. We have not done a city stay where we really stay and become immersed in the city's culture and architecture and food and all of the sights and sounds. And by the end of the Berlin trip, you'll feel like you'll have the confidence to go out on your own and explore the city. And so that's something I'm really looking forward to. And also here to tell us a little bit more about the Berlin trip and about traveling with EF is our trusty favorite EF Irish tour director, Angus Weaver, who has been so gracious to lead so many of our tours, and they've been a wonderful experience. But Angus has an interesting story. He attended a Gaelic speaking school, and is a graduate of Trinity College in Dublin, where he studied economics and politics. He moved to London, and he's been working for EF for more than 15 years. So he's very experienced and very knowledgeable. Angus is also, when he's not leading tours all around Europe, is a trained actor and has worked on many, many productions, from Shakespeare to a play about Harvey Milk titled Execution of Justice. And he starred in television productions, and he's still a working actor. Like so many of us, COVID has changed a lot. It's definitely changed life for Angus and all the EF tour directors, but he returned to live in Dublin just before the pandemic hit and has recently begun postgraduate education in Galway, and says that he may soon be teaching too, but we all know better. We know he's been teaching a long time, maybe not in the classroom, but we've learned so much from him. He's always been our trusty guide and teacher on all of these trips. And another thing too, most impressive, is that Angus has spent the winter swimming in the seas around, throughout Ireland, which is pretty impressive to me because I don't like to get into a pool unless it's about 95 degrees outside. So I'm in awe. Angus is personable. He's dependable. He has helped us in so many ways on these trips, and I'm thrilled that he's here with us. So let's give a big North Central Texas College welcome to Angus.
Hey, it's great. Cool. Thank you very much, Kristen and everybody. It's very nice to be here, if not a little nerve-wracking. So I was going to say that thank you, and also for letting me stay up past my bedtime, because in Ireland it's 10 p.m. here. So I've nothing else to do this evening, but I've been waiting for this all day, I have to say. And of course it's an hour later in Germany, usually. Now I've got some slides, but I think Rochelle is going to zap them up. So
Yes.
The first one is of me greeting students. Yeah, far ahead, please.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, so I was going through them, and I on my photographs, and I don't know if Rochelle will correct me, but I think I've done 4 tours with NCTC, and they've all been good fun. The first one we started in Scotland, and we shared the tour, Rochelle, and then I think Rochelle said never again. So there.
No.
What's that about the people of North Texas? You don't want to mingle. So there's a picture of, it's a half a picture of me. That is me waiting for Rochelle, and I think Jake was there and Chris was there in Munich a few years ago. So this is what I do half the year. I go to airports and I stand there with an educational tour sign, and I wait for groups to come out. Now, Rochelle's going to move on. I was going to say that I don't know if I'm the world's greatest traveler. I didn't necessarily get into EF tours because I was traveling the world. I've traveled a bit. And people get into EF tours for different reasons. Some people, they've got multilingual parents, or a lot of people have studied history or history of art, things like that. You'll find tour directors like that. My brother was working for EF, and then I was kind of looking for acting work, and it was a great way of supplementing my income. But when I was, no, Rochelle's going to have to go back to that one. Okay. When I was doing my tours for a while, I would say, because it's nearly always Americans we meet, I would say, oh yes, I visited your country. I've been to New York. And I thought this would get me a big pat on the back and maybe even a tip or something, as Donnie was talking about. And lo and behold, people would go, oh yeah, Angus has been to New York. He's never been to Michigan. He's never been to Nevada. And I was like, oh my Lord. So eventually I flew over and I went to New Orleans, and I spent 3 days there, had a great time. Then I went and I got a Greyhound bus to San Antonio, and I rented a car and I drove around down there. And I know it's probably a million miles from where you are, because over here in Europe, things are close together, but your state is very big. I failed to go north, so I failed to knock on anyone's door up in Denton. And then I went back down to San Antonio, and I took a train to LA, and that was great fun. And I got into LA train station, I think it's called Central Station, and I think it was in the Oscars the other night. I don't know if anyone watched any of the Oscars. They set some of the ceremony in this station, and I came out of the station. I was on my own. Sorry, I was on my own, and I only had, for some reason, I had $100 bills, and I like jumped into a cab at 5 a.m. in like downtown LA, and I was so nervous, and I was all my phobias are coming in, and I think the driver was European, and I was even more scared of a European than an American. I was like, oh no, this European's going to take advantage of this poor Irish guy who's arrived in LA at 5 a.m. But I survived. What I do, I loved LA. I went to the Grand Canyon. I went to Vegas, and I took 3 days to recover from one night in Vegas. And I went to I'm still near Area 51 with a really bad hangover, and I do remember going to a bar, and a woman, I think she was genuinely saying that she didn't know if the aliens really existed, but some of the guys from Area 51 used to drink in her bar, but even though she didn't know they existed, they were definitely blue. I was like, stop me now. This is too good. Is America always this fun? Now, what else happened? Oh, then my next slide. So I've done 4 tours with you guys, and I basically what happens, the 4 tours we've done so far have happened over Christmas. So I jump in the sea. That's me jumping into the sea at Christmas, and then I go home, we have Christmas dinner, and then I pack my bags. And for 4 years in a row, I went off and I met up with the staff from NCTC, and for some reason, I thought that was really interesting, to put this into this presentation. But on my next slide, I'll show you the second tour, and this definitely is a high point, because the photograph on the left there, is of 3 of your students or previous students in the school, and we're traveling through Ireland, and we stop off. And again, this happens all the time on EF tours. We make unscheduled, exciting stops to make the tour more exciting, and we stopped off and we went to see these old 1,000-year-old high crosses, Celtic high crosses. And the students there very kindly are looking at, my mum is a big history buff, and she's got these books about the high crosses, and these students are deciphering, like Indiana Jones, the images on the high crosses. And I was like, this is too good. The students from America love the Irish high crosses. So, well, 3 of them anyway. The other 25 were probably getting coffee. Now, do I have any more slides? Yes, I do. Because a few years later, I had on the tour, I think Jacob was on this tour, Christian was on this tour. We went to Germany. And I went on ahead, and it was a great pleasure to go down ahead because I hadn't necessarily done some of the places we had been. So I went down ahead and I took some pictures, and actually I sent them back to Rochelle. I was like, Rochelle, look where you're going to see it. These are the Alps of Innsbruck, where they do the kind of the skiing championships. And it was just amazing. So I have a few more slides of one more. We went to Lake Lucerne, and then we've got the punchline photograph. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we do stay out late. That is a dark sky. Once a year, Rochelle lets the students stay out after 7 p.m. No, this was, I need a sip of water to get through this story. Oh, this was New Year's Eve in Munich. Now, I don't know if I get paid enough to be dragged by these Texans down into the center of Munich. We had the wildest time on New Year's Eve. We went downtown, and the locals, because basically when you do travel, guys, obviously you want to do what the locals do. When I went to Texas, my favorite thing was I went and I ate barbecue, and I thought, this is the greatest moment in the world. And I went to I can't even remember the name. I went to a veterans bar to watch some TV that I thought was important to watch. But in Munich, we could have done anything on New Year's Eve, but we went with the locals, about 100,000 locals who were all letting off fireworks in a wild kind of, any word for what they were doing? A wild something. Any English? A wild, I don't know. I won't say a wild stampede. Anyway, we had the night of our lives, and we went home, and then we went to God knows where the next day. Any more slides there? That was a great night in Munich. And I have a feeling, I was looking at this today, and I think the speaker, the student, or the ex-student is going to come up, might be in this picture. We then went, so this is just amazing to me. I've only visited Venice a few times, and to go to Venice and jump on the gondolas with students from North Texas. I'm not sure it gets much better than that. Anyway, now, and then this was just a curry favor. I wrote in some of the names. I wrote Michelle, Jacob, and Kristen. Oh, Angus. Because I don't know if you guys have heard of Instagram. It's a big thing. It's social media. It's new. It's European. It's going to be huge. I put this. We were waking up in Switzerland on our way to Germany. And I put this picture up. It was just so beautiful at like 6 a.m. Before we jumped on the bus. So the itinerary then is there, and I've looked at the itinerary, and I think it covers nearly everything that. So what I was going to say was, I asked some of my friends here, had they, some of my colleagues about Berlin, about what they thought, and one guy said, "This is great." I think one of the guy who lives over there, he said, a quote from an Austrian composer: "You are crazy, my child. Full stop. You must go to Berlin." And this guy lives over there and he leads tours for American students. So the first time I went to Berlin, I don't know, it was about 10 years ago. So I'm Irish and I was living in London for about 10 or 15 years. And Irish people possibly go to London because we think London's cool. So we're in Dublin, but in London, where people are reasonably cool, they all talk about Berlin. So that's follow the clues here. Berlin must be very cool. So the first time I went over, a colleague of mine from EF Tours organized that I would stay at a guest house at the back of a grocery store. I was like, whoa. It was winter, it was cold, but actually they're very good at keeping everything warm because it's got such cold winters. So off I went, and indeed, the locals are unbelievably cool. One thing I noticed was in London, I'm not a fashionista, but I don't mind fashion. In London, people maybe have more money. They were like they'd buy a jumper, like, and go, "Oh, look at my winter's jumper." It costs like $300. In Berlin, the men, these like super looking fine chaps, would be wearing like their grandfather's old jumper, which is way cooler. Their clothes just looked, they hadn't bought it that day. I have to say, that's the kind of city you want to visit. So now, when I was in this area, it was in the old East Berlin, and definitely I was walking over the Berlin Wall. So you would be walking around this area where I was staying, and you just come to realize, oh wait, there's a line on the ground here. It's a bronze little line marking the Berlin Wall. Now, I don't know if I have time, but Berlin is unbelievable. And therefore, after the war, Germany was divided into 4 zones: French, USA, Britain, and the Soviet Union. And France and the USA and Britain made up West Berlin, and the Soviets made up East Berlin. Now, in 1952, so it didn't happen right away. In 1952, Germany was divided. The border between East and West was closed. So the guys couldn't go from East to West Germany, but within Berlin, you could still go across. Oh, that's not so bad. So East Germans could escape to the less oppressive and affluent West. However, in 1961, overnight, they started putting up wire, and then they built a wall, and the established crossing points were closed, dividing neighborhoods and separating families overnight. And the wall was 96 miles long and was guarded by guards who were told to shoot people trying to escape. So, I mean, you could go to Berlin just for the wall. It's out of this world. And you are going, I've checked your itinerary. Of course, you'll visit the wall. So my next photograph is... Really, is that my next photograph? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. My next photograph is the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe. And so during the war, 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, the genocide of European Jews. And on our previous tour, Rochelle and Kristen and Jacob, we visited Dachau, a concentration camp. And obviously, a sobering experience. And actually, that was a time, it was whatever, like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe less. And it was a very interesting time. And I remember listening in to the conversations of the students and the families of your students in the coffee shop afterwards, because of, global politics, American politics, and having just walked out of Dachau. It was very interesting. Now, when I went on one of my EF tours to this memorial, our tour guide set us free, and she said, "I'll meet you on the other side." And then we were all out. Anyone who wanted to speak about their feelings. And I mean, the memorial, is it art? Maybe it is a piece of art or like art, because it does evoke interesting feelings. And we spoke about those. And what I was saying was, these tours, they bring me alive. And I'm sure, and because what I did think was, having lived in London for so long, the Germans, at least they kind of acknowledge their faults, And I think, I mean, how could they not? But the idea that they will build a huge memorial showing, guys, we really made some mistakes in our past. And I was just thinking the other day, there's a lot of talk in in English universities about the wealth from the slave trade, and actually Irish universities. They're now talking about, did we gain money from the slave trade? So I just think it's very interesting about acknowledging your erroneous ways. Now, do I have any more slides? So this you'll visit too. All these pictures I took myself when I went to Germany. So this is the Reichstag. It's the German Parliament, built in 1894. It's on your tour as well. And when Adolf Hitler came to power as Chancellor in 1933, mysteriously, this building burnt down. And he used the event of the mysterious burning down to assume dictatorial powers in Germany. It's on your tour, and Rochelle is going to move swiftly on. I'm going to skip that. It says no. Okay, this I might skip one or two because I hope I'm not speaking for too long.
You're fine.
Thank you. So this again, are you guys going summer or winter? I should have known this already.
Winter.
Okay, good.
No, I'm sorry, May. May. We're going in May.
Yeah. No, because I think I was definitely there in winter, so it all looks kind of a little bit oppressive. But this is the Soviet memorial in the park called the Tiergarten, and 20 million Soviets died in World War II. So, which, I mean, I sometimes think, do actually 20 million Soviets died in World War II, and I just checked today, COVID deaths are 3.2. So maybe there's no comparison. Why am I making that comparison? But 80,000 Soviet soldiers died taking Berlin back off Hitler. And that ended in May 1945. And in November 1945, the Russians built this memorial. It's unbelievable. On either side, it's got two tanks. And it says in Russian, "Eternal glory to the heroes who fell in battle with the German fascist invaders for the freedom and independence of the Soviet Union, 1941 to 1945. And I don't think I studied World War II that much. So I think we are all maybe guilty of forgetting, when Russia was on our side, when it wasn't. But that's a lot of, it's a huge debt we owe that country. I'll go one more. Now this I think is a sign of what you can do when you're on a tour, when you travel. This was not on any itinerary that I went to. It's but I might have been using the Lonely Planet guide, and I mean, exploration is so much fun. Using a guidebook is fun. I guess you can use the internet, and I know some of the staff that I've traveled with from your school are very good on using what you have at your disposal to get around the world. Like, use your phone. But this is a memorial to homosexuals persecuted during World War II. And it's called the Eternal Kiss. It's two men kissing, and it's within a kind of a bunker. And you have to walk up. I think it's purposely made that you have to walk up to kind of peep inside. I think it's kind of made to make you look, or made to make you walk up to get involved with it. And homosexuality was severely oppressed by the Nazis. And actually, although a lot of other oppression they acknowledged after 1945, homosexuals were still being oppressed for another 2 or 3 decades. So this memorial only went up quite recently. We're nearly there, guys. So of course, nightlife in Berlin. Thankfully, I'm now in my late 40s, and I haven't partied as much as I should in Berlin. And I'm not saying you have to party all night long, but Berlin is well famous. It's also very famous for being kind of very liberal and very accepting. So it's probably essential that you kind of go for a beer, that you go for coffee. It's very trendy. It's a lovely city. So, but the nightlife, but if I do this tour, maybe I'll say now I'll stay out late one night. I'd love to. We go to meetings in Berlin, and we're always like, yeah, we're going to get out tonight. And then we're like, oh, we didn't go out. We're disgraced. So I'll go out if I do this tour. Let's see. I did put in another one, and then you do get a 3-day pass. I was looking at the itinerary. You get a 3-day pass to the museums in Berlin, and this is the Ishtar Gate, and it's from Babylon from the 6th century BC. And it's from where Iraq is now, between the Tigris and the Euphrates. It's the gate into what was the biggest city in the world of 200,000 people in the 6th century BC. And again, the museums in Berlin are really beautiful. You'll have a pass. I believe I read today that you'll have a pass for 3 days. So you could you can start getting ready for that now. So I might have one more. Oh, that's just in the area I stayed in near my grocery shop, which is just, well, cool. And that's the Brandenburg Gate, which was on the Soviet side of the divide. And it was, in front of that, your president said, tear down this wall. President Kennedy said, tear down this wall. Cool. Well, that's nearly the end of it. I was trying to think of something inspirational to say at the end, but I've definitely had a great time working with the NCTC people. And Rochelle has been on I've been on all Rochelle's tours. So big respect to Jacob and Kristen. And I did see Kristen teaching a class in the morning in Switzerland. And I have to say, I was just well impressed. The teachers from NCTC come so well prepared. And to see a group of the English students kind of huddled around their Brothers Grimm in the morning, I was like, oh, I haven't worked hard enough. But maybe I had to. Thank you, guys. I think I'll finish there.
Thank you, Angus. Angus is, we have a great time. Just, kind of a funny little story. Angus does such a great job leading the tours. And I tell people that one of the things about traveling with Angus that is always pleasurable is that it's kind of like the Maya Angelou quote, like you may not remember everything he says, but you remember how he makes you feel. And so when I got dressed down on a train from London to Paris by a Parisian woman for talking too loud, Angus, I still remember how he made me feel when I was embarrassed. And that's kind of the benefit of traveling with him. And so that's why we invited him today. We wanted to give one of our student travelers, Letitia Bradley, who is on the call, on the presentation with us, an opportunity to share some of her experiences. What is it that she loved about traveling with NCTC, the cultural enrichment that she received. So Letitia, I'm gonna turn it over to you. See if she can get. There you go.
Okay, there it goes. Okay. Hi guys. Wow, yes, this brings back floods of memories and I'm ready for another trip already. Just ready for a trip. Traveling with NCTC has been one of the best things in my life.
Oh no, we lost her. Well, yeah. Well, let me pick up where kind of Letitia might hopefully pop back in. But Letitia traveled with us on 4 tours. So she was one of my very first travelers. And every time we would come back, she'd say, where we're going next year. And I would say, I think we're going to go to Ireland. And she would sign up the next day. And then we'd come back from Ireland. She's like, where are we going next year? And I'd be like, we're going to Germany. She signs up the next day. So Letitia always travels with us. We let her come because she's so much fun. And she's kind of my Outlander. When we went to Scotland, my Outlander partner in crime. Yeah.
I jumped off for a second there. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
That's okay.
But yeah, no, you're right. Like I think about those moments where we take those off-land places. I'm like, can we go here? Can we go there? Like seeing the offbeat path. And that's the great thing about EF and working with NCTC, is that you get to go take a moment to do something you really want to do, but you guys also encourage us to be like, okay, yeah, let's go explore this place. And I think on my last tour, you and Angus were like, yes, go off for the last piece, go see your thing, and then we'll all come together and have dinner. And we just all have amazing stories from what we did. And I noticed in one of Angus's pictures that we were on that gondola together, and that was the best. That was the best day, and it was so fun. It was a good time. It's also really great to look at like all the classical literature where we go study, you know, you get to look at Shakespeare and all the other people, and then you go visit where they lived. Like you see it firsthand. That's amazing. And so I like having to be able to not only see it from a book, but also like live it and experience it. That's the best part.
Thank you, Letitia. And you know, speaking on kind of a point that Angus brought up, you know, we visited Dachau on one of our trips to Germany, and it's a concentration camp outside of Munich. And we went on a Sunday morning, and it was overcast, and it was cold. And it's one thing to have students read in Kristen's class the German literature and the experiences of Jews who were at concentration camps, but it's another thing when students walk through the camps. And one of the moments that I remember is a student said the walls aren't very high. And she was profoundly moved by how she imagined at a concentration camp that the walls would be 10 feet high. And instead, they're only about 6. And for her, that was something you can't capture in a story or in literature. You have to see it and experience it for yourself. And for her, understanding that the walls weren't very high meant that the ways that they kept people, you know, captured in these concentration camps wasn't physically, it was mentally. And that was a light bulb moment for that student. And those are the kinds of experiences that we have on these tours that make it so meaningful and profound. And we've talked a lot about Germany, but Jacob and Donnie, is there anything you want students to understand or think about in regard to Japan that you're super excited about?
Jake, you can go first. I'll back clean up.
Absolutely.
And we've got 2 questions that were posted whenever y'all finish with that.
Okay.
Yeah, so just very briefly, you know, Angus talked about the morning breakfast chats. That's something that is really near and dear to my heart. It's something that Letitia and I and Sarah and many other people, and Kinsey and many other people when we were in Scotland and England thoroughly enjoyed. And so these conversations where we get to be candid with one another, you know, whether you take the course or not, we have these conversations and we talk about literature and culture and life and the experiences that we're having. You know, and to use a quote that I've recently fallen in love with, we leave room for truth so there can be room for redemption. And so we get to talk about our honest experiences in an open way of what we have felt and what we understand, but also what we don't understand on the tour, of questions that arise in our minds of, wait, we saw this and experienced this, but I don't get it. I don't have anything to relate to it. And we can be vulnerable with one another, because a lot of people like to use the word vacation. I highly encourage people on these tours to not think of them as vacations. And that's not a bad thing. These are immersive and intense, but beautiful experiences where we really do form bonds with one another in a very short amount of time, which is just so nice to spend time with another human being and to be able to be vulnerable with them. And so we will, if you go on this Japan tour, we will have conversations every single morning at breakfast, and they're going to be wonderful and awkward and delightful and may make you a little sweaty, but they're going to bring us closer together. And it's really, really exciting.
All right. Well, for my part of it, the reason that I thought these trips would be fantastic is the business aspect side of it, and more of the hands-on business type, how people do business and making connections. And that was one of the things that I told my class. We talked about it, and when you look at IT and you look at liberal arts and all the other programs, most of the time when you have these travel abroad programs, there's not a lot of IT people in them. mostly liberal arts and people getting credit for classes and stuff like that. So I took it upon myself and said, look, you know, guys, would you go on a trip if it involved business aspects of it? And all of a sudden, there was a lot of interest, and then the excitement, and it was contagious. And not only, I mean, they started talking about doing projects together and bringing fundraisers and doing all these kinds of things in order to pull people together to get more people to go on this trip. And so the purpose we were going for was to go on this trip. Yes, we wanted to see the culture and understand some of the background and all of that, but we wanted to see the things behind the scenes for businesses. How do they do business in Japan? We had 3 different places that we were going to go and get to visit with those industry leaders. So making a connection over there. Maybe somebody can end up getting an internship over there. Maybe they have a company over here that is the parent company in Japan, but all of a sudden they have satellite companies over here in America. And so now we have students that have a connection in Japan that could give them a job over here in the United States. So that was my main focus for joining and getting the excitement for the IT students and any other students that's involved. So
Thanks, Donnie. Okay, here's a question for anyone. What are some things we could do to prepare before going or considering going to Germany and Japan? Something you have already talked about. You've already talked about. Have we talked about the payment plan? How you can pay out over time? Did we do that? Okay.
Well, you can enroll with $95. Will get you enrolled in the program. From that point, you set up a payment plan, and you would call the traveler support line, and they will work with you to set up a payment program. For those that would be traveling to Japan, which is leaving in January of 2022, you still have quite a bit of time to, call, put your $95 down and start your payment plan. For those that are traveling to Berlin, you have even longer. So I would advise that if you're interested in doing something like this, that put your $95 down, get your spot, and then look at the possibilities of how to pay for and what the advantage of going on a trip like this. Putting that on your resume. People see that and they know that this person is willing to expand their mind. So I would advise you put the $95 down, invest in yourself. Because
many degree plans, yeah, and I think many degree plans require study abroad. Most of my students, when they go on and get into their major in 4 years, so it's a requirement for all of the obvious benefits that we've just talked about. And then you mentioned the passport, Donnie. I'm trying to think of what are some things we could do to prepare before going or considering going to Germany and Japan. Any other things?
Victoria, I would also encourage you to familiarize yourself with the currency, the exchange rate, look at maps, kind of study some maps and get excited about where you're going and just kind of familiarize yourself a little bit with some of the names and the major streets, things like that. That's really helpful. Maybe even learn some basic German phrases that you can try out just for fun. That's one great thing about traveling in Germany is, a lot of Germans know English, but it's fun to be able to try out some phrases and communicate with shopkeepers and other people you might meet. So those are some things I would suggest too.
And John just put on the chat, EF has good get-to-know guides for each country as well for your pre-departure prep. So, yeah.
One of the most pressing challenges for students doing these trips is finding the time and the money to do it. And so we have scheduled the trips over the winter break so that hopefully if you are a transfer student or if you're at another institution by then, it shouldn't interfere with your fall or spring semester. And so if that's one of your concerns, that's one of the reasons, the logistics that we do it. If you have graduated from NCTC, if you've transferred on, you're also still welcome to participate in study abroad with us. You're also welcome to invite family and friends. Dual credit students are invited to participate. We have kind of an open door policy, you know, kind of like the Waltons. There's always more room, just pull up a chair, everybody scoot down. And so we're really open to, you know, students who want to come, family, friends, dual credit, graduates. Some of our students also, there is a link that you can have people donate funds, because that's also another consideration or a challenge for students is funding it. We do have some scholarship opportunities at NCTC. If you are taking the course for credit, we can also help you locate additional funding to help pay for the tour. EF has a link. It's kind of like a GoFundMe link. And so some of what our students will do is they will share that at Christmas and birthdays, at graduation with friends and family. And so if grandma's going to buy you a birthday present or a Christmas present, we just encourage students, hey, share this link and add to my EF account. And then that way it'll take from your balance. And so that's also very helpful. But we understand that that's sometimes the challenge. And so that's why we go in the interim between semesters. And we try to really help you locate resources to pay for the tours.
And there is a meeting before you go. So I know usually like the week before, would you say? I know usually around the end of the semester, winter semester, you have a get together for everybody who's going to go.
And we usually do an orientation about 2 months out. So students do an orientation to learn more about the tour and, you know, what the do's and don'ts of traveling and what to include. And then we also have usually a Facebook group. I don't know if they're going to continue to do a Facebook group, but some sort of communication tool for online to build community. GroupMe, that's what they're using. Any other questions? You know, and in regard to scholarships, you know, EF also has merit-based scholarships, financial need scholarships, diversity and equity and inclusion scholarships. And so kind of like what Donnie was saying, if this is something you're really passionate about and interested in, you know, research shows that students who participate in study abroad are more likely to graduate from college. Typically, they're more likely to be able to leverage this experience and this cultural competency in the workplace. And so we would encourage you to look into it, to email Kristen or to email Jacob or Donnie, and they can get you more information. And if you're afraid of traveling because maybe it's your first time going overseas, we have a lot of students who travel with us who have never flown before. They've never left the state. This is the best way to go. You really just show up with your lunch money and a passport, and we take care of everything for you and introduce you to traveling abroad. Kind of like Letitia, by the end of the tour, we just kind of say, here's your compass, there's the map, call me if you have any issues. And, you know, and then Letitia goes off and she texts me at night, everything's great, because we communicate often on the tour. So if that's something you're worried about, don't worry about it.
I would add on to that, Rochelle, and say, like, this is like literally the best way to travel, because if you're especially one of the people who worry about, well, where am I going to stay? Where am I going to do something? Where is, you know, like, I'm afraid to travel on my own. It's really great of people and just say, okay, I'm here. What are we doing?
Sounds like taking a drink.
Fantastic.
I was going to say, I think Rochelle's dog's barking. So.
I turned off my mic for a minute.
Did you share this, Rochelle, what John is saying, that EF College Study also encourages travelers to apply for the merit-based, financial-based, and diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships. You may have already said that, but I wanted to make sure that I'm sharing what he's sharing. So, okay.
You're going to have fun.
Well, and I'll also add too, I mean, Letitia's proof. We stay in touch with you. You are one of us now, whether you like it or not. So it's a great way to connect with some of your instructors or instructors from other departments. And I've had students who've traveled with us who just need advice on, you know, hey, I'm looking at applying to honors. Is this something I should do? And they may not be enrolled in my class at that time, but they know me from going on the trip and know that I'm going to, you know, help them out. And I think Jake and Rochelle, we've all had those experiences, and I still look after Letitia. I still want to know what she's doing.
We're still Instagram friends. Yeah. And, just to piggyback also on what Donnie was saying about the importance of study abroad for business and industry, a lot of students think that you do study abroad to study a language like German or Japanese, or you can't travel because you don't know those languages. That's really not the case. And the tours are accessible and applicable to a diversity of majors and interests. So if, I call it the ABCs, another bloody church. And so it's just not my thing. I want to go look for the Berlin Wall, and I want to go look for recent graffiti. I like to look at graffiti and modern architecture and modern art, and that's what I do. But other students are diagramming Celtic, crosses, and that's their interest. And so we try to make it as diverse as possible for a variety of students' interests.
Okay, and Elizabeth has put up the website for more information about all of this. I know I had a student email me yesterday that I forwarded to Jacob, and he wanted to know about any extra precautions we're taking. And so if you go to their website, it took me a second. It was right there in the front middle. Click on this, and it tells you really any questions you have. EF has a really great website. So we have the links for these specific, there it is again, for these specific trips, a separate link for Berlin and a separate link for Japan. But then this is just the main website for EF. And we've been traveling with EF since, when was your first trip, Rochelle? 2010?
Yeah, I've been going since 2007. So this will be my 11th year. No, 2007. So oh gosh, how many years is that? 14th year. My 14th year with EF.
One time
I was like, what year is it?
Yeah, it's Blur's Day, and I don't know the year, but that EF's been around since 1945 or so. It's been around for a really, really long time and does tours, all the time. And so that's why it's nice to work with a company that has so much experience, and they have so many different tours going on, and that's how they get good prices on airfare and lodging and all of that. So
yeah, so we are at about an hour, so I think I don't think there are any more questions, so I think this is probably a good place to stop and wrap up.
Yes, except Mariah just shared a phone number. If you are an old person like me and prefer using a phone and calling and talking to someone on a telephone, I don't know if Elizabeth has time to type this up, but anyway, the phone number is, she does, is 877-485-4184. Why do I feel like I'm on the Home Shopping Network? I don't know. Anyway, that is a phone call you can call. I actually like to call and talk to people. Rochelle doesn't like for me to call and talk to her on the phone.
That's the number, the Traveler Support. They're open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's an hour ahead of us. I always have to look at my phone.
So thank y'all for watching, and we hope that, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and contact us.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.